Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a deep episode of The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. And here's your host, Alan Mosley.
Guys, welcome back for another episode of The Gold Standard. I am your host, Alan Mosley, and you can follow us on social media, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. That's also, by the way, where we premiere the episodes Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern Time.
That's right.
That's 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern Time.
Right.
All right?
What is that in Mountain Time?
So the whole point is 6, 7, 8, and 9 is your time zones.
There you go.
The lower 48.
So if you're on the East Coast and you catch the show and you happen to jump on a quick plane, you can catch it again starting over a couple hours later on the West Coast.
The whole point of me doing this was so that people would not be confused.
And I just totally confused everyone.
That. Yeah.
Well, that's my job.
Okay. So Twitter is at Alan M. Mosley, but you don't have to do any of that. You can just go to our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com.
That's right.
Also consider supporting us on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/TGS.
Yeah, we can use that.
Now, you know, last week, it seems, I was going to say last week we had Dr. Kaplan on the show.
Yeah.
Does that feel like it was a month ago?
No.
It does to me.
Wow.
It feels like he was on at least 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But that was actually our most recent episode.
It was a big show. That was a big show.
That was a big show.
Big show.
That was a big show. Why are you not using this camera anymore?
I'm gonna.
Why don't you ever use
which camera? This camera?
No,
wait. This camera.
The camera that I look at when I talk. You don't.
Because look at you on that camera, man. You're like all up in our face and stuff.
This is
freaky.
This is the we're discussing with one another camera.
Okay.
And then this is the I'm talking to the audience camera. Yeah.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Hey.
Is this your first?
Look at this right here. I had a haircut.
Wait, hold on. Go back.
See?
You had a haircut?
I had a haircut.
It looks the same to me.
No, it doesn't. Oh, anyway. I like haircuts.
Okay, so guys, if you think Blake's haircut looks exactly the same, go to facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley, type at Blake Osborne, and let him know what you think. There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So, have you been watching any of all this, like, impeachment proceeding stuff? Have you been doing any of that?
I've been kind of, it's so annoying. I just wish everyone would shut up. I want my cat videos back.
You know, but here's the thing, though, is that I've been telling people is I see polls every now and then of, well, what do you think about this testimony? What do you think about that or whatever? And my answer always is no one voting on that poll, A, has any idea what they're talking about. Right. But B, most people just go to work.
Yeah, no one cares.
Most people go to work. Most people earn a living and then come home and eat dinner.
Yeah.
And then go to bed.
You know, what do you think? You think they're going to impeach him?
No, of course not. It's ridiculous to even say that.
It's stupid.
Well, let me take that back. Impeachment's irrelevant. Actually being removed from office is what matters. And no, he won't be removed. Right? That's so stupid on its face to even think that. And by the way, to even think that Trump is somehow, like, if you're still one of these people that thinks that Trump is draining the swamp and that he's not just another cog in the wheel, you are so unbelievably naive that I can't. You know what? You should go to euthanasia.com/Trump to get the information you need to make the right decision for yourself.
I don't know. From where I come from, it looks to me like the whole swamp is turning into something that resembles a lake. I'm really proud of that one. Come on, man. Cut me some slack. I'm tired today.
Okay, I'm actually glad we've had this talk.
Okay.
Because this is really just going to the point of why you're in that dark dungeon room and I'm in the lit studio on the camera. This is why.
This is why you're the host and I'm not.
This is why. We're really going to have to work on the lighting in your dungeon. I know that you like hiding in there where no one can see you, but
it's dark.
Look at that.
It's kind of nice. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. Yeah.
We're gonna get some lighting for you. Guys, we have an awesome guest today. I think this is Jim's third appearance.
Yeah.
Jim Bovard is making his third appearance on the program today, and he will be with us right after this commercial break. Hey, did you see the playoff games last weekend?
Oh, you're into the sports ball game.
Sports Ball with Mike Meharry and Alan Mosley. SportsBallPodcast.com.
Sports ball is not a libertarian sports show. It's a sports show done by a couple of libertarians.
For when you need your bread in circuses.
Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com. Guys, welcome back to the show. Our guest today has unloaded trucks. He's worked for, I was corrected, the Virginia Highway Department of Transportation. But he's also been a writer for about 49% of all media outlets in the United States. But more recently, you've got USA Today, Washington Times, right? Not Post. It's Washington Times. That's correct, isn't it?
Haven't written for them for a long time. They changed their writer's agreement, but that's okay.
Okay, well, we will not change our guest agreement on the Gold Standard. So, guys, Jim Bovard, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks very much, Alan. It's good to be on with you and Blake. I have to say, I'm a little concerned knowing how you and Blake kind of rough up your guests. You know, you're always asking these difficult questions about hot dogs and sandwiches and stuff like that. So I was thinking of doing some serious prep for this show, and I was kind of inspired by Field Marshal von General Vindman yesterday at the impeachment hearing. So I was thinking about going and digging out my old Boy Scout merit badge sash. And I was going to have my merit badge sash and some of my medals and some of my track medals and weightlifting medals and stuff like that. And I was going to sit here with it look like this in my face. But, you know, sort of like the guy did yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, well, maybe if I did that, I'd get treated with respect. But I've seen enough of your shows. I know it wouldn't work. So what the hell? Here I am.
If I'm known for anything, Jim, it's that I bring people on with well wishes and promises, and then I just attack their positions at every turn. That is me in a nutshell.
Well, you're a libertarian. It's what we expect.
Well, that is very true. Now, I want to show people at home really quick before we get too deep in today. So everyone is already you've heard of pre-crime. Now, this is pre-mourning. People are mourning your impending suicide. They say here, I'm going to have to buy a new suit to go to Bovard's funeral before he actually commits suicide tomorrow. Now, what brought on that comment, Jim?
Well, there was an article I did last week for USA Today on the deep state, talking about all the different shenanigans the CIA, the National Security Agency, the FBI have done, mm-hmm. how they're kind of screwing democracy and trampling the Bill of Rights and freedom and stuff like that. But otherwise, they're saving us from Trump. So I was kind of scoffing at all that stuff. I was kind of amazed at how the media has been, putting the deep state on the pedestal like they previously did with Robert Mueller. But yeah, so some folks saw that article and thought that bad things might happen. But a nice guy had a tweet. He said, bummer, I guess I'll need to buy a suit to go to Bovard's funeral. So he said that on Twitter. So I tweeted back and said, no problem. Casual tire's fine. So.
Now, I'm going to show people really quick the article that we're referencing. So there's an opinion piece in USA Today. As the deep state attacks Trump to rave media reviews, don't forget its dark side. The deep state has a long history of betraying the trust of the American people. They aren't our friends just because we share an enemy in common. So we're having that whole enemy of my enemy is my friend argument again.
I mean, that was not my subhead. I mean, that we have an enemy in common. I saw it and I said, well, that's it. It wasn't in my article, but it's like, okay, fine, it's your newspaper. So, the newspapers get to write the headlines and the subheads. So, but no, it's interesting, up until last year or up until the last few months, anybody who talked about deep state was presumed to be a right-wing nut.
Yes.
And just kind of paranoid and stuff like that. But all of a sudden, you had a couple of weeks ago, you had the former CIA chief saying, thank God for the deep state. You had a bunch of New York Times columnists saying, thank God for the deep state. They were out there cheering for it. The Washington Post has said the same. So, it's amazing how quickly the standards have changed in D.C. on this. But as far as the old paranoia of the deep state, a lot of it was justified because they've done a lot of killings. They've overthrown foreign governments. CIA was heavy in the torture business. And I don't know why we're supposed to trust people that were, until recently, involved in killing and torturing and lying. but otherwise they're fine folks.
Well, that actually reminded me. I don't watch a lot of TV anymore, but I happened to see they were advertising this Jack Reacher series that's getting ready to come on Hulu or whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
And it's one of those kind of like pseudo spy CIA type thrillers, And the actor whose name escapes me at the moment, but he was doing a little interview on the red carpet, and it was creepy, Jim. It really was, because they were doing all this gushing of oh, well, it's amazing what all the CIA does for us, and it's such a thankless job, and we owe them so much because they've done so much to protect our nation and its interests, and yada yada yada. And I don't have a huge breadth of knowledge, and I certainly don't listen to a ton of celebrities, but I can't remember not even 5 or 10 years ago hearing. Like, you always get the support my troops, right? You always get the Veterans Day. You always get the flyovers at the football games. But even though I don't agree with that either, that's for military veterans. CIA and FBI is a different beast, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And there was a quote from the CIA former chief Mike Pompeo, now the Secretary of State. He was asked what the CIA did, and he said, "We lie, we cheat, we steal." And that's pretty good. That's a pretty good summary.
Sure.
I mean, it's concise. I'll give them credit for that. And yet we're supposed to venerate these people, and it does look like the CIA had a huge role in the effort to, block the Trump presidency. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot more information coming out on that, but they sure as hell don't seem to have clean hands.
Well, they like to bandy around that phrase "public servant," and I know. And I tell people, look, I'm an anarchist, so I think everything should be privatized. But even though I do, it's harder to argue against firefighters, right? It's harder to argue against services that people appreciate having, that they don't typically get their skulls bashed in or have, or overthrow democratically elected governments around the world. Firefighters don't do those things. So to equate the run-of-the-mill CIA agent with a firefighter or a paramedic or whatever, that's just such a reach.
Well, there are CIA agents who have done a good job, who are very intelligent and skilled and brave. And, especially when the Soviet Union was around, we needed good CIA agents. And I'm sure they're doing good. Some of them are doing good things now, but it's strange to see the blind veneration for the entire agency, given that we know about it's committed so many atrocities. It's been involved in so many coups abroad. So the question arises, have they done any kind of, did they have any role here in similar things? And it's like, the chance of getting an honest answer from the CIA are slim and none, and Slim just left town.
Yeah. Well, it's how sometimes, so many different issues are interconnected, so many different ironies take place, is that, of course, you have all this impeachment stuff going on. All the impeachment proceedings, it's 24/7 news on so many different cable news networks. But at the same time that these impeachment proceedings are going on, you have the continuing resolution being voted on that also includes extending the Patriot Act. And of course, it gets bipartisan support. It passes through Congress. So we get more and more Patriot Act. And it just kind of seems ironic that literally on one channel, it's nothing but 24/7 coverage of, well, let's venerate our public servants, including those in agencies like the FBI and CIA. And then, down the block in Congress, in the Capitol building, they're voting for, warrantless wiretapping and surveillance of Americans without warrant, without due process. And so then you ask yourself, well, I can't even imagine why people wouldn't trust these folks.
Yeah, it's a paradox. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how these things play out, because it's basically attention deficit democracy, and people get the illusion that the average congressman knows what he's doing most of the time, and that's an illusion. I would love to see how many members of Congress could find the Ukraine on the map. I'd be even more interested to know how many of them could show us the exact area that's in dispute between Russia and the Ukraine. but it doesn't matter because they get their picture in the evening news, and they have their fashion coaches and all that. So, but no, I mean it's ruled by ignorance. It's ruled by people that are untrustworthy, and to see how the impeachment stuff is spiraling, it's just like it seems rather comic. But I'm interested to hear more of your thoughts on that, because you're in Tennessee. You're far better informed than most people. But I'm just being close to it. It's like, what the hell?
Well, I've seen people joke, and I've heard people say, well, what do you think about the impeachment proceedings? And my default answer is I wouldn't know, because normal people are living their lives.
That's a good answer. Yeah.
That's what normal people, they're going to work, and then they come home and eat dinner, watch TV, and go to bed, and they had nothing to do with the impeachment proceedings. But I'll tell you one thing that's kind of one of the things that grinds my gears, and I want to ask you if this is something that you run into a lot in your line of work, is that when you write an article that can be portrayed as critical of a particular executive, of a particular party, then it is assumed as a defense of another executive and another political party. You could write an article that is critical of Trump, and Trump supporters will say, "Why are you defending Obama?"
Oh,
even though the word
yeah.
Obama is not even in the article.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm used to that. I'm used to being attacked for all kinds of things, basically on bogus charges. I was having some fun today. The mayor of Baltimore has been got federal charges today, I think, for her racketeering. That might not have been the exact charge, but she got like $500,000 for a children's book she wrote that nobody read, and the people that bought it were kind of on the take. And so I was having some fun on Twitter. Twitter, I said that it was shocking to see the Trump Justice. It was shocking to see the Trump Justice Department persecuting a children's book author. Will this madness ever stop? And of course, this being Twitter, almost everybody responded and said, well, no, you're wrong. Well, no, there's a lot more to it than that. I'm thinking, oh God, can I make a frickin' simple joke? But I guess, folks who would know me, and folks who also know my long record of disdain for the city government of Baltimore and the mayor, I mean, hey, it works for them, but other people say like, well, no, she was a crook. No shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's frustrating. It's hard to find folks that you can get a even semi-sophisticated back and forth with, because the knowledge level is so low on most issues, and people are prone to assume the worst about anybody who doesn't agree with them. Mm-hmm. I mean, and people think that rage is proof of wisdom, and it's like, no, it's just proof your therapy didn't work.
Well, I hear that story from our friends at the 10th Amendment Center, is that, when a Democrat is in the presidency, then and they're just generally critical of government machinations, then all the right-wingers come pouring in their donations. They're subscribing to all the articles, and it's, you're speaking truth to power. Well, when a Republican takes office, and TAC is literally posting, I mean, they could literally just repost an article that they had literally posted 2 years prior for the exact same content, and those same people are all, I'm withdrawing my donations, you're betraying America, and all the lefties are saying, you're speaking truth to power. So I've been meaning to ask you, and it's probably something you and I may have talked about before, but I want to talk about it again, is that now you've written for a lot of different outlets. And you've been an investigative journalist. You've covered a lot of issues. You've talked about a lot of people, some people on the left, some people on the right. But you have been a consistently principled individual, regardless of who happened to be at office at the time. How much has that affected you professionally?
I was wondering where this was going.
Now, I don't expect you to name any names. I'm just more broadly, how has it affected you professionally when you weren't willing to pull punches against anyone?
Oh hell! I mean, there were periods where it was adverse. I mean, certainly with the George W. Bush administration. Sure. I mean, from 9/11 onwards, I thought Bush was a damn rascal. He was not a good president before that, and then he became horrible. Mm-hmm. And I said so. A lot of doors closed at that point. There were folks. I was critical of Obama. People called me a racist because because I criticized Obama. So, it wasn't like I was saying, hey, he was born in Kenya. I mean, that was BS. It was tawdry that people were pushing that line, or that he was a Muslim. That was tawdry. Or the birth certificate, other stuff. But almost any criticism of him, and you're going to be attacked for being a racist. It's interesting on Trump. There are people I know that are furious at me because I'm not always furious about Trump. I've criticized. I mean, Trump has told a boatload of lies. He sees more power than he should have or can do constitutionally. His saber rattling is appalling. There's a lot of shenanigans that have gone on, but I still think Hillary Clinton probably would have been worse. Hillary Clinton probably would have had some more wars at this point. So, but simply because I'm not out there raging against Trump 24/7, I'm assumed to be a Trump apologist, and I'm not. You can look at what I say on Twitter and some articles, you'll see that. But no, I mean, it'd be a real handicap to expect fair play. I mean, if you're writing about politics or the experience you have commenting about politics, there's a small number of people that are going to be, think about, last week or last year he said this, and maybe he's consistent. No, my impression is that there's a 3-second rule on Twitter. It's sort of like the 45-second rule in basketball. I mean, a person is not allowed to think more than 3 seconds before posting a reply or an attack on Twitter. So, I mean, this is how life works. I mean, if you don't have a thick skin, then, go and do some other kind of work for the government.
Well, I hear people sometimes say that, lots of people like to think, well, things were better before, things were better during X year. And oftentimes that's just rosy colored glasses. But with that said, would you say that environment is worse today than it was, say, 10 years ago or 20 years ago? Or it's really always been that way and it's just more visible today because of social media?
Things have gotten worse. I mean, social media has accentuated it. Flip side is there was just a tidal waves of venom after 9/11 towards anybody who wasn't, waving the flag and falling in line and saying, we've got to attack them there before they attack us here and all that BS. So, I mean, there was a book I did called Bush Betrayal, came out in 2004. And the publisher had a great idea to publicize it. They decided to post Google ads. I mean, I think they only spent about $500 in the ads, so they were big spenders. And posting Google ads and letting people the chance to post a reply, post a comment about the book on a blog, or to send a message to the author, whatever. And so it wasn't filtered; it was just out there in general. And the hostile feedback was a hoot. I mean, there were a lot of people that raised questions about whether my parents were ever married, but that was on a good day. There's certain programs I write about. I did a story last year for USA Today. There was a study that came out that said that 36% of the college students were going hungry, which the media reported as like 36% of them were almost starving. So I looked at the numbers and, did a story that pointed out the real trouble with college students was that they were obese. Not all of them, of course. But, some people took that wrong. Some people got really riled by that. So I don't know. I mean, but with social media, it's easier for people to express anger and hatred. I mean, it's also possible people would get better informed and more thoughtful, but I don't think that always happens.
Well, that reminds me a little bit about Justin Amash, and we'll talk a couple of things about him because I know you and I had mentioned him briefly before the show. Is that something I've seen him get attacked about a lot on social media? And I'm not here some people say that, well, a lot of what he's doing today is because he has Trump derangement syndrome and yada yada yada. I don't even necessarily want to get into all that, but more that the social media sphere or just the 24-hour news cycle in general, it's just always marching forward. It's such a fast pace, and it's always the next outrage, the next outrage, the next outrage, that I've seen many times Amash can be on Twitter, and he can say, for instance, I don't like Trump because he does X. And without fail, the first 1,000 responses will all be, well, I didn't hear you saying that when Obama was doing it. And he actually, to his credit, will reply, here's the receipts. And he'll post links to 100 of his own tweets from years past where he was complaining about Obama doing, engaging in the same activity on X or Y or whatever. But the point being is that those people, it's way easier for those people to express outrage and get likes than it is for them to have actually researched 5 seconds who Justin Amash is and where his positions are.
Yeah, that's right. And there's been a lot of unfair criticism of that congressman. I mean, it's appalling to see that people making cheap shots about his Palestinian heritage or raising other questions about his family. I strongly disagree with him on the Mueller report. I think he's mystified why he's latched onto that and see it as a Rosetta Stone. He's shown great courage on civil liberties for at least 6-7 years in Congress. He's been willing to take a lot of heat. So I have respect for him, even though I disagree with him at times.
Yeah, I mean, and that's that's just you though, Jim, because you're making an assessment you're looking at his body of work, and you can appreciate when someone does something good, but you can criticize them when someone does something bad. But the opposite end of that spectrum though are the folks that, don't get me wrong, if you want to base Trump impeachment on the Mueller report, then yeah, that's a weak read. However, I don't hear anyone trumpeting what about the America's involvement in the war against Yemen? We're still in the wars. Guantanamo Bay is still open. What about the bump stock ban? I mean, to me, those are all perfectly legitimate reasons to impeach the president that have nothing to do with the whole Ukraine scandal and quid pro quo and all that. But you don't hear any of those things because it's so much easier in the national consciousness to we've moved on from all of those silly little transgressions. We're on to this scandal.
Yeah, well, I don't think you get too many votes in Congress to impeach on bump stocks. But it's a good example of completely arbitrary power because you had the ATF making repeated rulings. No, it doesn't convert the semi-auto into a full auto, therefore it's not a machine gun. But Trump in his tweets, I declare, and it's total BS. I mean, and it's a measure of the media's firearms illiteracy that they made a huge case out of this in the first place, because my impression is that the primary impact of bump stocks was to make people less accurate in how they shoot. So, if you got a mass killer, I'd prefer he missed.
Sure.
So, but as far as Yemen, it's amazing there was so little controversy on that under Obama. Likewise for the bombing of Libya.
Sure.
I mean, it's puzzling. Maybe this is an example of the worst things that presidents do. They usually get a pass on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly possible there's things that Trump has done that we haven't heard about that are far worse than the allegations on Ukraine. But even those allegations don't really, you're kind of trying to figure, well, it's foreign aid. Of course it's corrupt. It's like, there's this Vestal Virgin theory that seems to be driving a lot of the criticisms of Trump on Ukraine and elsewhere. And it's like, prior to Trump taking office, everything was clean, everything was upright and transparent. And it's like, that's such complete crap.
Yeah.
It doesn't make Trump an honest man. It sure as hell doesn't make him trustworthy. But, if we could have just a little bit less BS in the background media commentary, that would help.
Well, and furthermore to that, talking about how, the day before Trump took office, of course, we lived in a free republic that has never done anything wrong, and in the day after, it's chaos. What do you think about
fascism?
Now, because you had brought up just a few minutes ago that you were critical of W, especially after 9/11, and that closed some doors for you. Does it not make you sick to see some of the same folks who were critical of W now worshiping at his feet because he's not Trump? Have you seen all of that?
Yeah, I've noticed.
I figured you had.
I think I've written a couple stories on that. I think did something for the Hill, maybe. Forgot, maybe for USA Today, or maybe I was beating up on George Bush Sr. on that one. But it's tawdry. It is so completely tawdry. But these are the type of people that get elevated as pundits, as politicians, as others, as spokesmen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of amusing to me to see a lot of these GOP types being so upset that Trump has had this tweet or had that tweet. I mean, George W. Bush set up a worldwide torture regime and then lied about it. And then once he left office, Bush bragged about it to help the sales of his memoir. Yeah. And yet, and there's no statute of limitation on that. But nobody's going to arrest him. Nobody's going to prosecute him. So, if the founding fathers had even a half sentence in the Constitution mentioning that the president has a right to order torture, I don't think the U.S. government never would have been formed. So,
I think that's your call. Take a.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
It's my auto guy.
Okay, we'll take a second.
Jim Bovard. John, how are you?
I'm debating whether we should edit this out or not.
I don't know. Let's see how good it turns out. It's at 29.50 when it happens.
Oh, the water pump's leaking.
25.50.
Oh, shit.
Sounds expensive. I hate it when water pumps go out. Sounds expensive. Poor Jim. I wonder what kind of car he drives. Bet you it's about like $650, $850.
What did Jim's water pump know about Hillary Clinton?
I don't know. Must have known something. This is thrilling. It's like watching water boil. But haven't you had this call? I love this call. The auto mechanic's like, well, I went on there and I looked under the hood and there's it's kind of like the Swedish chef talking to you, Except he makes more sense.
I think the cynic out there would say, if the mechanic calls and says that your water pump is leaking, how do you know that they didn't just stab a hole in it?
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to stab a hole in a water pump.
No, it's not.
I mean, they're made of metal.
Well, I mean, weld.
Yeah, true, yeah. They could just be flat out lying to you, but that's why it's important for you to learn auto mechanics, kids. They shouldn't have done away with shop class.
Yeah, they should have, because they need to do away with most of school.
You're pretty right. My kids might not know what a water pump is, but I guarantee you they will. Just learn to change a tire. It's kind of important, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Being able to, help yourself is essential. Yeah.
Are you back?
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, anyhow. The joys of having an older car.
Oh, yeah? What do you drive?
A 1999 Ford Contour.
Ooh.
I don't know if you know Contours, but they're really comfortable cars.
Yeah.
6-cylinder, so. The water pump fucking, anyhow.
My first car was an 84 Ford Tempo.
Uh-huh.
And it was a tank.
Okay.
It wasn't a huge sedan, but it was back when they still made most of it out of metal instead of fiberglass. And
wow.
I'm pretty sure you could just drive through the wall of the Fed, and if you want to end the Fed, just drive your Ford Tempo at it. That's how you do it.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'll keep that in mind if I decide to end the Fed.
Meharry and some of us, we have an ongoing joke that, sometimes people will say out of frustration, oh, my day is terrible, I'm just going to kill myself. So we've replaced that. We no longer say I'm going to kill myself. We say I'm going to end the Fed. Well, because if you tried to go into Fed, that they would off you. So now, instead of saying I'm going to go kill myself, if you tell me, Alan, I'm going to go in the Fed, then I'll know that you're in trouble.
Well, that's a good signal. The Feds have probably picked up on, but what the hell?
Yeah, I don't really buy into the whole thing of worrying too much about what I type in messengers and all that, because I'm like, guys, they already know everything about you.
Well, yeah. Since you use Facebook Messenger, it's like, oh shit. So anyhow,
Yeah, I still have some people that I associate with that'll be a little bit meek when it comes to what they're willing to say and do, and I always just get on their case of, dude, they already know where you live, they already know what your affiliations are, they've already got the metadata, they're just waiting on you to make a mistake, right? So they can yank all that metadata out and say, look, we got a whole case.
well, at least they're working for us.
Well, yeah, they're public servants. That's, that's exactly right. Now, I think we'll figure out a way to edit the front and the conclusion here together. We were actually debating when you were on the phone if we should just leave that whole thing in.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like, how much? Fuck.
I know. Well, you said that, and then you muted, and when you muted, Blake and I were discussing how do you know that when you take your car to the mechanic, they don't just create a couple of problems for you to?
Well, yeah. See, I mean, that's a very bona fide question, but this is a really good mechanic. I've been using him for about 8-9 years. He's helped keep my old car on the road.
Okay.
So it's sort of like, okay, well, we'll just go with this. What the frig? Yeah. And it was nice to arrive at his shop today, driving the car as opposed to riding the shotgun seat in a tow truck.
Well, there you go. That is very true.
So
the reason why we have you on, Jim, is because you always look on the bright side of things.
Well, it's you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, but what the hell?
Ah, well. Well, I want to cover a couple of more things before we wrap up.
Okay.
One of them is, so we had just discussed some of the W. Bush love because he's far enough removed from the consciousness, and he's different enough from Trump that people who were once his enemies are now his friends, and they're trumpeting, for the lost days of yore when we only had 9/11 and we only had the Patriot Act.
And there's so many levels of BS on this. If Bush, George W. is having an art show at some place here in D.C., maybe in the Kennedy Center, where he's doing his paintings of the maimed soldiers who he sent off to Iraq and elsewhere. And it's like, this is like, have they no shame?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's like he has no either moral or legal liability for the 4,000 American soldiers killed in Iraq, 4,000 plus, far more maimed and wounded. But instead, it's like, oh, it's so great. He's doing his paintings. It's like, I think he should have stayed doing nude paintings of himself in the bathtub, which I think was one of the first ones that came out. It's like, okay, well, no. I was going to make a crude joke, but since you're wearing a necktie, I'm just going to, I'm going to try and follow suit.
Well, Jim, we've actually have the program syndicated on a few different networks now, so we're trying to tone down all that hideous vulgarity so that we're more palatable to the pearl clutchers out there in the internet sphere.
Well, then why are you having me on?
well, yes, just so that we can rock the boat every now and then.
Well, fair enough.
So I want to come full circle. So we talked a little bit about kind of the hypocrisy of when one party's in power, the other's angry. When the other's in power, the other's angry, and who supports you and who doesn't. And you had kind of made mention of this, and we talked a little bit about. So Thomas Massey was tweeting that they have that 72-hour rule, right? There's 72 hours for you to read the bill. They suspended that because they wanted to get this continuing resolution pass through Congress straight away. Why would they want to do that? Well, everyone's distracted with impeachment, and the continuing resolution has Patriot Act reauthorization in it. And so it kind of comes full circle to this, is that the divided partisanship, a lot of people look at that and they say, these are terrible times. How will our country survive with so much division? I don't agree with that for a second, because as far as I can tell, all the worst machinations of government are all bipartisan efforts.
Yeah, I can see why you would think that. Thomas Massey does great work. He's probably the best member of the House at this point, if not the best member in Congress. Yeah, I mean, there's this, the word bipartisan is, it's a warning shot. Because you think, okay, if they agree on this, you get people like John McCain, and basically as soon as you hear that John McCain was involved, you think, all right, well, this is going to be bad. sort of like Bob Dole in the old days.
Yep.
I would hope that one lesson from the Trump era would be that people would have less trust of government.
Sure.
That people would recognize the president has far too much power, and to recognize that checks and balances don't work very well. Part of my concern about how the media has played Trump is that they're reinforcing, if not directly, the idea that, that once Trump is gone or once Trump is toppled, we'll have good government again. They'll be dancing in the streets like I guess the Mayor Pete's video is doing now. But that we're only one step away from being able to trust Washington, the federal government again. There was a daily cartoon in the New Yorker earlier this week about a dog. The old joke is a dog always goes after the postman. But the postman was walking past the dog, and the dog looks at the postman and says, "I have new respect for government officials now." And that's almost the exact line, but it's like, oh, for the love of goodness. I mean, this is what the media is trying to draw from the testimony of the government worker, department career employees in the Trump impeachment hearings. There was all kinds of stuff in the Washington Post and New York Times gushing about the military uniform of Vindman in yesterday's impeachment hearing. And it's like, okay, it's just the level of absurdity, because you have a guy, a U.S. military officer, who's offered 3 times to be the military chief of the Ukraine. But if you say the phrase dual loyalty, you're a bigot. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, it seemed like, here we are almost 3 years into the Trump presidency. It seemed like almost all the bullshit alarms have broken.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now, I don't think the impeachment stuff's going to go anywhere. I think it's going to be like it always is, which is it's just a big fuss for TV ratings and to rally your base. But at the end of the day, Trump's going to stay exactly where he is. With that said, why do they want Mike Pence to be president so badly?
I think it's simply driven by hatred of Trump.
Yeah.
And this very narrow notion that that if you topple Trump, that you'll somehow have that back in the glory days of Camelot under John F. Kennedy or whatever. I don't know. So many of the Trump critics can't think past the end of their nose. So Pence would be a lot worse on a lot of policies.
Yeah.
So, don't know. It doesn't make much sense, but then again, most things these days don't.
Jim, we're going to get you out of here on this one.
Oh, here's the question. Here's the wind-up. I knew I should have worn those merit badges.
All right. If a tomato is a fruit, and it is ketchup a smoothie?
No.
Jim's not a real libertarian, Blake. What? Yeah, he gets these wrong every time.
I don't know, man. I have to side with him on this one.
It doesn't matter what you use the ketchup for. If a tomato is a fruit and fruits ground up into a paste with sugar is a smoothie, then ketchup is a smoothie.
It's not a smoothie. The question should be, is it a jelly? Is it a jam?
Oh, is it a jam?
Is it a jam? That should be the question.
Is ketchup a jam?
Is ketchup a jam?
In Arkansas, yeah.
Yeah. I would say yeah.
I'm willing to go with that.
Yeah.
I'm willing to go with that.
Yeah.
Jim, where can people go to check out all of your writing, your books, all that good stuff?
JimBovard.com. I guess Amazon's got all the books, and other places have them, and here and there. Hey, thanks a lot for having me on. It's fun to get back on with you and Blake and Banner, and I'm glad that you guys are keeping that torch of liberty plenty hot.
We're going to attempt to do it. I'm going to stay with us for just a second, Jim. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but I want to holler at you during the break. Guys, we will be right back.
Have you ever been talking politics with a friend and told, if you don't like it here, you should just move to Somalia?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, from the sandy beaches of Mogadishu, Sherry and I bring you Postcards from Somalia, one of the newer products of Little L Productions, where we take on all of the fallacies of the people who say, if you don't like it, you can just get out. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com.
What's the big sigh for?
You know what I did yesterday?
What did you do yesterday?
I performed in a concert yesterday.
I heard. How'd that go?
No, it was actually a lot of fun. They raised
You are a singer,
it was a benefit concert. They raised a lot of money.
Okay.
So it was a success by any metric.
Well, sure.
It was fun. It's been a while.
Really?
I don't talk about that a lot on the programs and stuff because that's like so you know how you keep like your normie life and your internet life separate, you know?
Yeah.
So like in my normie life, I play jazz.
Yeah, you are. You're a jazz singer.
And every now and then, it kind of weirds me out because every now and then something will come up or I'll play something or whatever, and one of our internet folks will find it and be like, "Oh, I didn't know you did that."
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it's a reminder that it's like, well, of course they wouldn't know because that's my normie life.
Yeah.
And that's separate from.
Well, who has a normal life? Who's actually a jazz singer?
Normal and
on the side,
normie
right?
are totally different things.
Normie.
So my normie life,
Your normie life.
where I don't talk about political stuff and all that.
Right.
Well, I will say this though. I had made the joke to several people. I told because we had the whole sound check and everything was Monday night. And then Tuesday night was the concert.
Yeah.
And I told and people were asking me, well, are you gonna talk to people there about anarchy and libertarianism and all that? And I said, and so first I said, well, of course no, because this is my normie life.
Right.
And then I thought, you know what? I take that back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sit backstage, and every single time a performer is getting ready to take the stage, I'm going to whisper to them the virtues of being able to sell recreational heroin to kids at elementary school cafeterias.
Wow. That's deep.
If you can't do that, you're literally a slave. So.
Oh, wow.
Yep, you heard it here first.
Yep.
So no, I didn't do that.
Yeah, I would say
I'm
you
sorry.
probably didn't.
I know I had a couple people that I knew that were like, "Ooh, are you gonna tell all your normie friends about the gold standard and stuff?" And I was thinking, if I ever want to be invited back on to perform, probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of got to act like normal people in your normie state, right?
But you know what though is that it's not even necessarily being normie. It's not like I'm reflecting their political beliefs to belong. It's more that you should just not be autistic and not talk about political stuff at all and just focus on the task at hand. The task at hand is perform in the show.
Right.
They didn't bring me out there to talk about recreational heroin.
They brought you out there because you're actually a really good jazz singer.
With that said, I'm a jazz guitar player too.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like just being a singer. By the way.
Well, yeah, you play guitar too, and you play very well.
Okay. So for people at home, so Blake was a professional drummer. Like he's a way more professional musician than I am.
It was a long time ago.
Well, but you know this though, right? Where if you have to stand on stage with a microphone, that feels much more naked than being behind the drum kit. Because
I was a singer too. I sang.
I'm not saying you didn't.
I was skinny once.
No, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
I can't even talk to you anymore. You missed the point of everything. You're a freaking statist. I was about to say you're an effing statist.
Don't say that.
So that means it's time to remember to mention Suzanne Sherman's The Wasatch Report over at Cerberus Radio Network, which also sponsors The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Remember, Cerberus Radio Network.
Cerberus Radio
So
Network.
Anyway, no, you know what I'm saying is that if you're standing there playing guitar, you're kind of hiding behind your guitar.
Yeah.
You're expected to play your guitar.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you're literally doing nothing but singing, then it's kind of like you feel like you're supposed to. Yeah. You're supposed to be a showman.
You're supposed to dance or do something.
I don't really do that though.
No, the guitar's like a security blanket.
Exactly.
Some folks,
exactly.
You know? It's a confidence
That's what I was
builder.
trying to say before you went off on your little tangent right there.
Hey, man, look. The whole point of me is tangents. I'm supposed to distract you from like being all serious, right? I'm your comic relief, man.
So this is the
Are you
final
not
episode of The
comic?
Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. I hope everyone's enjoying. No, I'm just kidding. You know, episode 100's coming up.
Yeah, I do. I'm excited.
I want to mention that on the show really quick for people that might be down there in the chat of the live show.
Yeah.
Episode 100 is going to be around the 1st of March.
Yeah.
So you're going to see some announcements as it gets closer and we have an actual date and all that.
We've got some cool ideas.
But we're going to be filming episode 100 in front of a live studio
Yes.
audience. So if it is possible for you to make the trip to Middle Tennessee, you'll see the announcements.
Yep.
Consider coming down to Osborne
Yeah,
Studio and Sound, where you will
absolutely.
see a live taping of episode 100 of The Gold Standard with some of your favorite guests who
Yep.
have been on this program in the past.
That's right.
We're gonna do a couple skits.
Yep.
We're gonna even have a musical guest.
That's right.
It's
We're
almost
going to
like
push the envelope of technology here, buddy. It's going to be amazing.
we gotta get the little graphic that goes across the screen so that like when I say it's almost like, and then it goes bah, almost like a real show.
Yeah.
Almost like a real show.
Almost like a real show.
Guys, it's facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Twitter is @Alan M. Mosley. The website is thegoldstandardpodcast.com. Patreon is patreon.com/TGS Alan Mosley. If you're not a Patreon person, send me a message. I'll take your credit card info. I'll take care of the whole thing for you.
Yep.
You won't even have to worry about it.
That's right.
Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.